While the BaoFeng K5 Plus has some styling similarities to the very popular Quansheng K5, the K5 Plus is a very different radio. Let's take a look. BaoFeng's K5 Plus budget class ham HT became available on Amazon earlier this year. As you can see, it has the K5's familiar black and orange on and off knob and a speaker enclosure on the right side of the case. But that's where the similarities end. As we get started, I need to mention that BaoFeng sent me this K5 Plus for review. They don't get any approval rights to the video, so be assured you're getting my honest opinion. That being said, I tend to match my expectations to the radio's class. This is a budget class radio, so my expectations are based on other budget class radios that I've worked with, as that only seems fair. Now, let's continue. The K5 Plus is in a larger case with BaoFeng's familiar color screen. It has separate buttons for switching between VFO and memory mode, a band key, and an AB key to switch between the upper and lower displays or registers on the screen. The K5 Plus is also a tri-band radio. That means it has 2-meter, 1.25 meter, and 70 centimeter transmit capabilities. It even comes with a separate 1.25 meter antenna, which isn't always the case with tri-band radios. The radio both transmits and receives on its advertised frequencies. They are 136 to 174 megahertz, 216 to 225 megahertz, and 400 to 480 megahertz. That means it transmits outside the ham band, so you'll need to manage your frequencies to stay within the limits of your license. It comes with a 2500 milliamp hour battery, has 999 programmable memory channels, and you can access NOAA weather channels with a long press on the 0 key. FM broadcast stations are accessed via a short press on the orange side key. Let's take a look at what you'll get. So here's the box that the K5 Plus comes in. Unlike the brown color BaoFeng box, this one is the blue color. Very nice, but we don't really care that much about the box. Let's look at what's inside. First thing let's look at the owner's manual. This one has got a little bit different color. The paper is kind of that smooth, shiny kind of paper. But when you get inside, it pretty much is the same with, chapter on getting started, various warnings, how to charge, diagrams of what the various displays and buttons are on the radio itself. Here are the various icons that can be displayed on the LCD depending upon the mode and what you have set. A description on how to move around the radio and how to do several tasks, how to turn on the FM radio monitor, lock the keypad, that kind of thing, how to access the weather channels and the weather channel information up there. And then along with some advanced features like doing basic programming. Now, the other thing we've got in here, of course, after a few pages of those basics things, is a list of our menus. And so the menu items are listed there with an explanation of what they do and what the options are. And then as we move forward, then we get into a table that has that same information in table format. So that's pretty much the owner's manual, very typical of these small radios. Now let's look at the accessories. So the accessories for the radio are pretty typical for these small things. We've got the USB-C charging cable right here. We've got the belt clip. The screws for the belt clip are in the radio. They've got this wired push-to-talk and earbud things, kind of the surveillance or secret agent kind of headset accessory that comes with it. We've got the antenna, which has the female end here, and then it also then has the more narrow and flexible antenna length that's become very typical in these radios nowadays, as opposed to the thick rubber ducky style, and then a lanyard for you if you'd like to have a lanyard to keep it on your wrist. So those are the primary accessories. Now let's do a tour of the outside of the radio. So the K5 Plus is a little bit bigger than some of the radios I've reviewed recently. It's got the kind of this K5 feature that a lot of the various branded K5s do, where the microphone and the speaker is. This radio does have separate buttons for VFO and memory mode. It has the A and B button here as opposed to doubling up on menu and exit, and then a band button here to make changes to the band. The LED that shows what's happening with the radio, so green for receiving, red for transmitting, is on the front as opposed to on the top. And then we've got all of the usual keys with the various menu items here listed for at least the first 10 of those menu items. So menu 2 is going to give you transmitter power, for example. So if we rotate the radio, we've got the push-to-talk keys here. We've got side key 1 and side key 2. We rotate to the back. We've got the battery. The battery has a covered USB-C spot here, and then a little LED here that shows the charge status. And then this would be for charging in a cradle. There are the screws I mentioned for the belt clip, and notice that they are in the radio and not on the battery itself. There's a little loop here for the lanyard for those of us who like lanyards on our radio. And then over here we have the snap over cover for the K1 connector for a microphone, speaker mic, or more likely our programming cable. On the top then we've got the SMA male over here. We can see the little plug is in this part of the antenna. We've got the flashlight LED right there, and then we've got the on-off and volume switch right here. And it harkens back to that basic K5 radio. It's got a little bit of a guard here, and then it's got the black and orange, which seems to be kind of the trademark of anything labeled K5. So that covers the exterior tour. Now, let's take a power-on tour where we'll take a look at the menus and what the buttons do.
Welcome. Frequency mode.
So you can see the typical BaoFeng female voice came on. And when we look at the screen, and I see that I've got the screen cover on, and so let's take that off. Not sure, but that seems to be a very popular aspect of radio tours on YouTube, pulling that little screen cover on. But so you can see that I've got this scheduled to go off after just a couple of seconds. And so that's going to drive us nuts. So let's demonstrate how the menu works by working that particular thing. So we'll start by pressing the menu button.
Menu.
I'm going to go to 6, which is ABR, backlight. And then I'm going to press menu again. And so the choices start to illuminate. And I want on, so I'm going to press menu again.
Confirm.
And then I'm going to exit menu by doing that. And so now, while we're recording, the screen isn't going to go off. Probably you'll want it on like 20 or 30 seconds to save batteries, but for our purposes here and now, we're going to want to leave it on. So you can see up here it says main. That's the band or the register here on the display. I've got dual watch on that the push to talk is going to trigger on. If we press band, we can see we moved up to the UHF. And then now I'm back at the VHF. If I want to go to VFO or memory, I can press this button.
Channel mode.
And I'm back in channel mode. I haven't programmed this radio, so just kind of some random stuff in there right now. But you can see this is a frequency in the 220 band, so we have that. And then if we want to go AB, you can see that the main dropped to the lower register, and now whatever you have set in here is going to trigger when you do the push to talk. So it's got high power, it's got a CTCSS, that's that circle C on the display. It's channel number 1, and the frequency, of course, you can see as we've got that here. Now, as we do the programming, we can change these displays from frequency and name or channel and frequency and that kind of thing. This is how it comes right out of the box, and it's just showing the frequencies. And normally when these come out with pre-programmed frequencies, there's no name assigned. So we've looked at the VFO, the AB, and the band switches. We've looked at menu and exit. Let's kind of rotate the radio around and see what else we've got here. So now we've got the orange button. And so a quick press on the orange button goes into the broadcast FM mode. Another quick press turns it off. A long press goes into the alarm mode. Down here on the lower key, a quick press turns on the flashlight, another quick press flashes it, and another quick press turns it off, and a long press goes into monitor mode to break all the squelch for that low signal strength signal that you might be trying to recover. So those are the buttons here on this side. So I'm going to do one more thing here before we leave this. I'm going to go up to the main, and then I'm going to go to VFO mode,
Frequency mode.
and I'm going to type in an airband frequency.
11840.
And you can see that it is airband capable. The 118.4 is a tower near me. It's changed to AM modulation, and so we ought to be able to hear air traffic control. You heard that coming through on the tower frequency right there. It wasn't very readable, but that's because I'm a ways away from the airport and I'm in my house, so that's not a big surprise, but you can see that it does pick up signals in that band. The other thing we can do here was we can go to VFO.
Frequency mode. 222
And this is a tri-band radio, so if I press to talk just very briefly, you can see the RSSI signal indicator is going to display, and the red light came on, so it does in fact transmit on 220. This is a dual band antenna, so I wouldn't transmit on 220. I'd get either a tri-band antenna or a separate 1.25 meter antenna for this radio if you're going to use that, but the capability within the radio is there. So that's a quick look at all the major power on functions for the K5 Plus. The K5 exceeded the 5-watt level in my power tests. Let's take a look. We're going to do this in the 2 meter, 1.25 meter, and 70 centimeter bands on high power. Not that interested in intermediate power settings, so we'll just do high power here. I'm transmitting into my MFJ 874 power meter, and I've got this set on the 20-watt arc because I've been playing with this, and I know that it comes in over 5 watts. So I've got it up there, which means we're going to be reading this on the second arc from the bottom. So here we are in the 2 meter band, high power. This is quite good. As you see that it's up there at like 7.9 or 8 watts of output. So that's a very good output for a little budget class radio. Let's go up to the 220 band. Again, high power. A little bit less, right at 6 watts. Again, very good for a budget class radio in this band. And now let's bump up to the 70 centimeter band. High power, again, second arc from the bottom. So it's a little bit higher. It's about 6.1, 6.2 watts. So output in terms of power for the K5 Plus is pretty doggone good. Here's what that output sounds like. As you'll see in the clip, I'm using another budget class BaoFeng radio for this demo. Receive test on the BaoFeng K5 Plus. K5 Plus. Receive test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Test, test, test. Transmit on the BaoFeng K5 Plus. Transmit test 1, 2, 3, 3, 2, 1. Test, test, test. BaoFeng K5 Plus. Test out. Hey, if you're finding this information helpful, please click the thumbs up button and subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel. Click the notification bell so you'll know when we post new content. You can also click the join button to learn why you might want to become a channel member, or click the thanks button to make a one-time contribution to support the channel. Now, back to the review. Unfortunately, things aren't all rainbows and puppy dogs. As with several BaoFeng budget class radios, signal purity in the 2 meter band is, well, problematic. The 1.25 meter band is clean, but on 2 meters, not so much. Here's what I saw with my Tiny SA Ultra. So here I've got the BaoFeng K5 connected to my Tiny SA Ultra, and I've got it set with 40 dB of external attenuation right over here, and I've got it set to measure harmonics, and so you can see the various lines there that represent the harmonics. And then I've got the 40 dB here. We'll double check that. We'll at level external, yes, 40 dB there. And so we've got that. So let's see what we get in terms of the 2 meter band on high power. We can see that the various harmonics really don't meet standards here all that well. Number 2 is 17 below. That's this one. You can see that, and it's above that 25 microwatt line. These are good. They're, 40 below, 50 below, and below the line. But harmonic number 2 at 293 is certainly above the line and not below it. So, yeah, not the best. So these are okay down here, but this harmonic number 2, and that's pretty typical for a lot of these budget class HTs coming out of China. So I'm not terribly surprised. Always a little disappointed, but not surprised. Now let's change the Tiny SA to the 220 band and see what it is up there, as the 220 band has the same requirements as the 2 meter band does here. So let's do a quick change of all that. Okay, so we've got the Tiny SA set up. Now let's change our frequency in the radio.
2, 2, 2, 0, 0, 0.
And we'll transmit into the signal analyzer here and see what we get. We'll let it go through its scan cycle a couple of times. And you can see here, there's the fundamental. We've got 2 harmonics down here. They are both more than 40 below, and they're both below that minus 1602, representing 25 microwatts. So in 220, the radio's clean. Let's wrap this up with a quick peek at the CPS, or Customer Programming Software. One of the things that BaoFeng has done that is really helpful is that the T6UV series CPS works with several BaoFeng radios, including this K5 Plus. We'll take a quick look at that in a second. The K5 Plus is also compatible with the Chirp CPS. Chirp allows you to easily import memory channels from repeaterbook.com, as well as some standard channel configurations. Here's the BaoFeng CPS. Okay, so here's the CPS, the factory version from BaoFeng for the K5 Plus. And so you can see it's this T6UV series, which is really handy, is that there are a lot of radios that from BaoFeng that use this CPS. So just by way of a quick overview, we've got the various drop-down menus here, channel list, VFO modes, programming, read and write, settings, is where we're going to choose our port. For me, this is COM4. That's what it reads, my programming cable. You can import a power on picture, which is kind of cool. And then help about tells you about the version of the software. Now, by way of making changes here, you can see I have uploaded what was in the radio. This is just what came with the radio. Haven't made any changes. But to delete something, for example, you highlight it, hit delete. When you click out, the whole row disappears. Same thing here. If you want to add something, you just type it in. Say 146.520, the VHF call frequency, and then when you click out, the rest of the line fills in. Now, if this had been a repeater output frequency, you'd have to type in the input frequency here using the proper offset for the band you were in, and then all the rest of these you can make the choices on to include drop-down boxes with all of the CTCSS or DCS codes that you have. And then here at the last, you can give it a name. And I'm not sure, but I think they normally take 7 or 8 characters, so you might have to abbreviate a little. Now, one of the things that's important here, since as we scroll down, we see that there are 999 channels, it's a really good idea to think about how you want to program this. And so, for example, if you have your local frequencies, maybe you're going to do those in groups, from 1 to 50. And then maybe you want some satellites, and so you're going to stick those down 500 to 550. The GMRS channels to monitor, not to transmit on, maybe you want to stick those from 100 to 130, those kinds of things. So you have a better way of getting to the channel that you want without having to scroll through or scan through 999 channels. Now, unfortunately, I don't think this one has bands or groups, which is one of the things that would make that even easier. And so you have to do that by yourself. So just do that with the channel range. Now here in Windows, we've got the channel list displayed. We want to go to VFO mode. It'll tell you where it's going to start and what the default settings are. Usually don't mess with that. And then we'll go to function, and this is where you can make a lot of changes to the menus instead of tapping on the keyboard. So you can set the squelch. 3 works for me. Timeout timer, that's 2 minutes. I don't talk that long, so maybe I'll drop that down to 90 seconds. The power save mode is on. I'll leave it on. Dual standby is off. I could usually use that on. I can set my side key tone, and then all these other things. I'm not going to go through all of those with you, but on display type A, if there's a name in the channel, I can set it for name, or I can set it to frequency, or I can change it to a number. I'll leave that where it is. Work mode is how it comes up, and so it comes up in channel mode as opposed to VFO mode. They don't have to be the same, be the A and B. And those are the things that you can make changes on. And again, they're all in one little box, make it real easy to make those kinds of changes. And then if you do play around with DTMF functions, you have a DTMF menu box that you can play around with. When you're done, you write to the radio. And normally I would recommend, before you write, do a save as and put it somewhere on your computer so that if at some point you mess up the programming, you don't have to start from scratch, but you can just recall a saved file. So that's a quick overview of the CPS for the BaoFeng K5 Plus.
Let's wrap this up with some closing comments. I'm a fan of smaller form factor radios, but the K5 Plus feels good in my hand, and the larger 2500 milliamp hour battery should provide long battery life, offsetting its a bit larger size. Of course, that's all personal preference anyway. The build quality is good, and the buttons seem solid but not stiff. The large channel capacity and USB-C charging mark this radio as checking all the boxes for a good emergency communication or prepper radio here in the budget class. I do wish BaoFeng would solve the 2-meter signal purity issue. With the explosion in 70-centimeter repeaters limiting your 2-meter transmissions, it's a reasonable workaround. From comments on other reviews I've done, I realize some of you just don't care anyway. I'm just saying. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. That really helps, and I thank you. Join me over here where we'll take a look at my list of the best 2024 ham HTs. Thanks for watching, and 73.